The 100, Season 4, Episode 11, The Other Side. Now, of course, with this episode, the first thing I feel like I have to start with is, of course, us losing a character in Jasper. Very surprising ending. I don't know, it's hard to say if it was surprising, because I was hoping, where it was like, man, this could easily just go the route of kind of TV. It seems dire and drastic and depressing the whole way through, right up into that last little bit. And then it's okay. It's like, it may not be perfect, but the character doesn't end up dying and things get a little bit better. And that just didn't happen. I was hoping that would happen, and he's just been kind of a wreck the entire season, and I was hoping that there would be something that could help him and get him on a much happier course, kind of sending him back to who he was in previous seasons, but it just didn't happen. That moment never came that turned him around, and sadly, we lose him in a very emotional sequence at towards the end of this episode. And Monty's going through, and he almost loses two people, but at least Harper does decide. Because I was like, man, if they kill her too, it'd just be like, she hasn't been as big of a character until recently, but it would still be depressing. It was like, it's enough. She's important enough, especially being attached to someone who was there from the very beginning, one of the 100, being attached to him in that regard. And I was just like, man, I really hope that doesn't end up happening. So fortunately, she does end up putting on a suit and they leave together. So that was definitely good. They do end up stopping Raven from dying. We find out that she's able to save herself. So I was like, all right, well, we still lose a character in Jasper, but I was like, I thought for sure that it was guaranteed that we were losing both Raven and Abby. So there's potential that could change as well. She saved herself. She could save Abby. The fact that she saved herself and now she's still kind of taken over in a sense, but she's still somewhat herself. I think that leans towards some happy endings as far as her being able to make like a full-on cure for everyone. So they might not even need the bunker. So we'll see what happens, because I was like, all right, she's back to normal. She's not going to die at the last minute. Sinclair comes along to help her out, which I thought was very awesome. So, I'm like, well, that opens up quite a few possibilities with her being like the genius of the show. So I'm like, all right, that could open up some good avenues as far as saving other characters, because she's still by herself. Everyone else is already in the bunker, so it's just like, there's a lot of craziness going on. But despite us having some good moments from what happened and not losing other characters, we still end up losing Jasper. So that was a very sad moment in the episode. He was definitely one of my favorite characters for sure. He's always been, well, he was in the beginning. He was the funny character. He was the guy who just joked about everything, even when it was just dire situations. He was the jokey guy, and eventually all that just fell away, when he lost the woman he loved, and things just seemed too chaotic for him to make sense. And stuff just fell apart for him. And it was just like, wow, I thought it would change, and it just never did. And it's crazy that spiral just ultimately went to what it seemed like it was going to. I was really hoping it wouldn't lead to that sort of tragic ending, but he was fine with what he was doing. So it was a very good moment, but it still sucks, to lose an important character like that. But going into the less depressing moments of this episode, we do have some really great stuff inside the bunker, where the new dynamic is, do we let people in because that's what we agreed to do, especially now that Octavia's won, so we officially have our option, or do we just let everybody die? We let some of our people die, and everyone that's in here, gets to live. So Bellamy, of course, is just trapped, and it's like, I don't want my sister to die. Abby cares about Kane, which was also pretty good, and they have to ultimately end up teaming up so that Bellamy can, get to the top and open up the bunker like they had agreed to beforehand. So that was just really crazy. And of course, Clark gets there, and that was a really good moment. Like, she shoots to kind of, the warning shot, and I'm like, man, and this of course is way before the Jasper thing, so I was like, man, are we going to lose someone in this episode? I didn't know at the time. But, she does the warning shot, and I'm like, they're not going to do it that way, where it's like Clark actually ends up killing him, because they're like, that's just insane to me. But of course, she ultimately cannot do it. She even like bursts into tears, and so he opens the door. Everyone's allowed to come in. The other clans have made their choices as far as the 100 people that they're letting in. I like that it's also 100 from every clan, of course. It's very good. But it was just very well done, and they have stuff going on above the bunker as well, because we see Echo show up. And that was a really good moment. Going from the part where she shows up to the end, where Octavia made that promise, and then she pulls out her own blade on her, and she's like, you know, I said your people would be safe, but definitely not you. And she just, she just walks off. She's like, as Prime Fire waits, and she takes off. I was like, that was a pretty good moment. I like that. But it was a really good episode. You know, we go through the dynamics of all the characters, and you know, just how things are going to play out. Jaha, I don't think Jaha's making it out of the end of this season. You know, he came back and he was doing his like crazy guy thing before, which led to the City of Light, and that was a whole issue, but that was a mistake, you know, and plus he was taking over from the beginning, like, you know, it was cool. It's like, it wasn't really his idea. You see a crazy robot lady that's a hologram, you don't know what's happening, you've never seen stuff like that, so you can give him a pass. This is just him kind of being a dick, even though it was, you know, Clark's idea. He hasn't been doing the coolest of things as of late, and this certainly isn't one of the greatest things. So I don't know. It's very interesting because some of the stuff he did was pretty cool. Where it's like, you know, he tried to make things work. Where it was like, you know, we need to work together. When it was them at Arcadia, where it's like, hey, we'll do a lottery, but you can only be in the lottery if you do the work. So he came up with some good ideas. He was doing some good things. And kind of as the season went on, he kind of became more and more detached from like helping everybody to going into straight up survival mode. And it was just very interesting. It was like, like you could see it just little by little, and he's just like, we're finally here, it's done, just F everybody else, we're alive now. So it's like, I can't like him at all anymore. He's really devolved from the character that he was, which is very interesting. That's just good writing, because it makes sense when you go back through everything that's happened to him. It makes sense that he'd feel that way, especially trying to survive and keep his people alive. But still, you can't really be a dick like that. Like, hey, you weren't the one fighting in the crazy death battle, you know, against 7 other people. So, don't really get to make the rules in that regard. But I just really love the way they did the character dynamics of everybody, you know, freaking out. Pretty much everyone agreed to hold the bunker down, except for, you know, Bellamy and Abby by the time everything came to. And Clark ultimately just couldn't do it. And I'm sure if it was someone else who wasn't the main character, they'll be a bit different. But it's just well done. Everyone kind of made the agreement like, hey, we already moved in. We want our people to be safe, and that's all there is to it. Of course, in doing this, you know, kind of showed Octavia that she doesn't want to be a part of Skaikru whatsoever. She's like, those aren't my people. So it was just very interesting. She was like, her main decree at the end was like, you know, you get to choose 100 people. Bellamy is one of them. Other than that, figure it out. So I just like the way they played on the dynamics of the characters, and even from the last episode to this one, you know, things can shift with how characters feel about each other. So it was very well done leading into, I believe, the last 2 episodes, which is crazy. And of course, the main thing seems to be, compared to Jaha's idea before, like, hey, if we all, you know, you put in the work, you get to be in the lottery. Now it's like, you just got to fight to survive. And I think when he was saying that, of course, his plan was to fight against the other clans. But it seems like it starts to devolve into everyone fighting against each other. It's kind of like, you know, we dwindle things down to 100 people. So we'll see what happens there. But of course, like I said, we got Raven being okay, so I feel like she's going to instantly come up with the super cure by the season finale. Everything will be fine. I'm curious how that might play out, of course, with the physical element of the series as far as nature and everything being wiped away. That is still a big part of the show, where it's like, yeah, the radiation is absolutely too intense for anything to survive. So, you know, there are just so many elements to it. Like, even if they all survive, what are they going to do for food? You know, especially if it's everyone. Because with the bunker, it's like, you know, we have enough food for us for now. But as far as, like, if Raven comes up with this super cure, will they start putting it in animals? And weird stuff like that started to pop into my head. Like, okay, they can save the humans, but the humans, there's still a food chain, and nothing can exist without the food chain outside of basically germs. So, you know, there's still the question as to what they will do once they start surviving, and where they'll go as far as getting away from, you know, just hazardous, even if it's not hazardous to them, hazardous to plants and things like that. So it should be very interesting to see how things play out in these next 2 episodes. But this was certainly a great one. The character dynamics were very well done. Sadly, of course, the loss of a character, even though it was in his own way, probably From what I can think of, as far as all the deaths in the show, I'd say this has to be the most peaceful death, at least, because everyone else is just like disastrous. Like, no, I feel like every other death, even if they ultimately find peace in the end, everyone else has been like killed or forced to sacrifice themselves. And it's like, I can find comfort in sacrificing myself to help you, but it's like no one, I feel, got to go like Jasper. And I feel like that kind of fits for his character to have that death where there was really nothing that he cared about. It was just like, no big deal. I want to party, literally party to the end, and that's what he chooses to do. And he just drinks and he drinks and he looks at the moon and stuff like that. And he thought he was tripping because the moon was like red and orange. But it was really good. It was sad to see him go. It's always sad, but it was a good way to end his character. And I think it definitely fit for him, especially this version of him where him having changed over these few seasons. But good episode all around. Very excited going into these last 2 episodes for the season. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, least favorite parts, and naturally, I have to ask how you guys feel about Jasper's death. The scene in general, how Monty reacted to that, and that leading to, him just walking through the moment where he's freaking out about Harper, but all he sees is just everyone else around him has died as well. So it was a pretty crazy moment. Not as attached to them, of course. They weren't like, Monty and Jasper were like brothers. So everyone else, it was still like, crap, these are people that I knew, and they were all just gone. So it was a crazy scene in general. But of course, I would love to know how you guys felt about that entire sequence, and even leading up to Monty realizing that Harper was going to leave with them. But all of that, I want to know how you guys felt about it. And of course, I want to know how you guys felt about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.